You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, huge shout out to our sponsors. The Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. So go to thedoghouseokc.com and follow them on Instagram at thedoghouseokc, and hopefully our pups will run into each other.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down at Bedford's Camera with return guests. This is your third time on the show.
I like it. I was thinking about that earlier.
It's like every 2 years, roughly. It was 21, 23, late 23, and now we're here in 26. So
very good.
Return guest, Eddie Radosevich on the podcast. Things have got progressively busier for you.
Yeah.
With OU getting into the SEC and all the things, and having a really good year, playoffs, and I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy, pretty fun. I mean, obviously when you're on the Oklahoma sports scene with the Thunder and everything, they've won a world championship since I think we last talked. It's been fun, but yeah, everything down in Norman is we've kind of joked here over the last couple of months that like it almost seems like everything is going too well right now. And with the new athletic director and Roger Denny being named last week, definitely some turnover, like for the longest time. And I know that we've talked about it before, that it's like Bob Stoops, David Bourne, Joe Castiglione were like this tripod that held everything together. And now you look up and Brent Venables, the head coach, Joe Harris, the president, and now we have Roger Denny coming in as the athletic director. So changing times, but it's fun.
Do you think that, and I think, and you're obviously closer to this than most, but there does seem like there is a changing of the guards with the old school coaches because of NIL.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
like, I don't want to deal with it. It's my time.
It's probably not so much just specifically coaches as much as it is like everything that we know about college athletics. I think that, you certainly have seen people, schools reinvent the way that they're going. Utah's opened up to the private equity. You have Florida State yesterday announced, I think, a $437 million shortfall on their athletic department, which, like, I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
OU announced their $43 million. Them in Texas is a little bit different because they didn't get the full revenue share from the SEC until this year. But it's different. And I think that the old guard, like I've always kind of joked, like you got to be crazy to be a college football coach, college basketball coach right now with all the NIL. You see Oklahoma State, they signed the Drew Mestamaker kid, making more money than almost every other coach up in Stillwater. It's crazy. I've always been one of those that like, I think the players should benefit. They should get money from it somehow, but paying $5 million, $6 million for a quarterback is, it's insane.
That's the thing that like being an average college athlete myself, like if I made 10 grand a year, like I would have been thrilled, right?
Yeah.
Like any money. I was fortunate I had scholarship and very fortunate to graduate with no debt, but still like, and you got some of these kids now, who are just making and sure, fair enough. But that, like I said, they need to get compensated, whatever. It's a system. It makes sense.
It's just at a point now where it's out of control.
That's the thing. There's so much money, and money obviously comes with a lot of problems.
Sure.
And then you're talking about your athletic staff, and it already puts enough problems in, like your quarterback, your defensive line not making as much, or whatever it is, like the locker room dynamic.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
sure,
the amount of money that's like in that spider web that people are, coming to work, or they've been working coaching. Coaching's not easy. It's a grind. You've got to be an assistant. You're traveling all over and, doing your thing to finally get that head coaching spot or some coaching spot. And some kid comes in and he's just like, No, like especially in Oklahoma State when they're like it's a very family, like you're loyal, right?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
you come in and like, they really hire people who've been to the school and gone off, and a lot of people return. Yeah, I'm sure the
It's it's
conversations are
it's
tough.
amazing, but then at the end of the day, and like I know everybody can be upset about it and feel uncomfortable about it. And they, everybody, I think to a degree, especially around here, probably there's a certain level of innocence that the college athletics has lost.
Yeah.
But then ESPN releases the television numbers from like December or January. It's the biggest month they've ever had. So, I mean, we're all part of the problem, I guess, to an extent, but it's definitely different. And I think that, with like Roger Denny taking over at Oklahoma, it's definitely different from what Joe Castiglione over the last 28, 30 years has been and meant to the program. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they navigate all of this and who's ultimately making some of these big decisions within athletic department. I think we find some interest in that at Sooner Scoop, and it's going to be, certainly interesting with basketball, with OU men's basketball here in about a month's time if they have to make a decision with Porter Moser.
Well, the other thing, like, I'm just thinking of this now, and we got some friends who are kind of in the general manager space of, a Paycom or
Sure.
of, the Energy FC when they were here, or, Tulsa FC, like the professional sports world. Now, because of college athletics, these jobs now, because of the money in it, are like, oh, I can go and be an assistant GM or
Very much
assistant
so.
director. Like the AD's position is now moved into, oh, you're actually like, you could be an opportunity for a general manager of a giant sports franchise.
Sure.
Could now think, you know what, I'm going to go be the AD at Alabama or at OU because it's now translating because of the money involved.
It's incredible. And I think that, like, Roger Denny, that wasn't necessarily a name that I'm going to claim to have known a month ago.
Idea.
But then when you look at the resume and what he was able to do with like negotiating TV rights, with contracts, with NIL specific stuff in Champaign and Illinois, it makes a lot of sense of the way that they're going. And, I think Oklahoma, the one thing that like everybody was a little bit kind of worried about when they brought in Jim Nagy was how that was going to go with the front office. And I think it's gone really well, like maybe better than I thought it was going to go. And I think that that's kind of a model that you're going to start seeing all over the country, if not, more so than it already is.
So dive into, how was your year?
It was great.
Catch me up on since we're
It was great.
involved.
I think that the football stuff, certainly since the last time that we talked, they took the dip in 24. And I think even during the middle of the season this year, people were wondering, is this going to be it for Brent? Is he going to get a fifth year? And for them to close the way that they did in November, and some of the trips that we were able to go on, whether it be Knoxville the first weekend in November or, a couple weeks later after the bye week going to Alabama, those are two of the trips that were they were awesome. Now, I say that OU won, so it was a lot better from a coverage standpoint and from a business standpoint, but it was fun. It was cool getting out to a lot of places that I had never been, and I think that been pretty privileged and thankful, I guess, in a way, to have traveled to a lot of really cool places. Excited about some of the places that Oklahoma's playing next year in 26. Like, it's a who's who kind of travel schedules, going to Michigan, going to Florida for the first time, the Swamp, Between the Hedges in Athens, Georgia would be cool. And then like OU, Texas, those are 4 games. That's a bucket list season for some people to go to, or, a lifetime. So it's gone well. I think the SEC stuff has been fascinating in that every which way you look with the SEC, they do it kind of like an NFL model, to where there's like little segments throughout the year. So it never really feels like football is over to an extent. They have, the portal obviously takes you into January now. You got the winter workouts that are going on right now. The coaching carousel, that was fascinating to watch from afar. I'm glad that Oklahoma wasn't a part of that this year.
Right.
But they have like the SEC like coaches meetings down in Florida, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's SEC Media Day, and then the season's basically here. So it's been fun. It's been cool. Certainly the playoff game in Norman was probably the highlight of the year, just because that was so unique, in that nobody really knew what to expect. Like, I've covered college football playoffs. I've covered, Big 12 championships and all sorts of bowl games and unique conference games or non-conference games, but I don't know, it was just different. It was cool.
Lasers, 50 Cent.
Yeah,
Right. Like,
50 Cent. Yeah,
great first half.
The whole 50 Cent thing was unique. It was only something that could happen in like the world of social media, where somebody tweeted me and then we kind of took it and ran with it, and they end up playing it at one of the games, and then he ends up playing it live. It would have been better. Like we kind of found out before the game that he was going to come and do it, and I joked with the person. I was like, it'll hit a lot better if they're not down by 20 at the time. They were down by 10. So it was cool though. It was fun.
How did it come about? You mentioned the tweet.
There was a guy that tweeted me, because all Oklahoma fans have always kind of bitched over the last couple of years about the fourth quarter song. And it is unique. Like, I think that like each place you go in the SEC, they have a little bit of it's a bit kind of to sing along, if you will. And so somebody tweeted me that it should be Mini Men, the 50 Cent song. And so I took it and kind of made a video about it, kind of joking, and they ended up playing it. So it was cool.
Nice to have that little part.
Yeah, right? It was cool. It was cool.
Tell the grandkids one day.
Yeah, I did that.
I did that.
I think it was Sean, I want to say his name was Sean Canamore maybe, or something like that. So give him full credit. Yeah. But he came up with the idea, but we certainly used the platform and ran with it.
Absolutely. How is, being in the SEC now for a little bit of time and getting your, kind of comfortable and traveling and all, things are clearly ramped up, and there's all these little segments.
Sure.
Two questions. How have you guys as a traveling staff been received? And then how have the fans been received both ways of bringing people in and then you going to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very good, I would say. I think that, there's not a whole lot of difference in the way that we cover things or the way that we travel or anything like that. Maybe outside of like maybe flying a little bit more to some of these places, but it hasn't been different. And I think that, we kind of went in with Sooner Scoop has kind of legitimized itself as far as being a journalistic entity, if you will. And, George Stoy has done a fantastic job, Bob Brisbillo, with our print side of things, breaking stories and stuff like that. So we kind of had a standing, and we knew a lot of people within the SEC, I guess, media landscape or like media world. So like going to SEC media days, I know most of the people already when we get there, but I think that more than anything, it's just had probably more eyeballs on the product, more eyeballs on the content, because I think that, something we talked about, like when OU was going to the SEC, I think that has rang true is the passion of the fan base matchup with that of Alabama or Georgia or Mississippi or, whomever in the conference. So maybe it's been great for business, I would say. I mean, I think that there's more eyeballs on Oklahoma, specifically, maybe, I don't know about ever, but certainly more attainable because they have that SEC brand next to it. And it's gone really well. And I think that, like, I haven't heard any horror stories from fans like going to different places. My parents went to Knoxville this year, had a great time. I think they went down. No, they didn't go to Alabama, but yeah. I think everybody's been well received. I think that, you're going to run into some of the places like LSU at night or something. They caught them in 24 when they were kind of in a down year, and it was the final game of the year. You could tell like Tiger Stadium wasn't what it usually is, but it's been cool. I'm excited about some of the places to go this year, just in terms of like Gainesville or Athens. I've never been to either. I've been through Gainesville on the way down to Orlando, but I'm kind of excited to just see some of these places that we've always watched from afar.
Yeah, it's people always talk about like the cities, the city of Norman's and all these businesses are going to benefit from all the eyeballs and all the media and all the money coming in from travel, and it is all true. It's it's fun to be on your side and actually reap that, right? And
sure.
You mentioned, eyeballs mean more advertising deals, and like Sooner Scoop going from just it's just bunch of guys, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, we're legit media with the SEC now, and you being able to harness that and leverage it as much as you can as well.
It's been cool, and I think that, like, especially over the last couple of years since we've started really kind of attacking the YouTube world, we were pretty late on that. We had always done the podcast. I think the podcast is now about 13, 14 years old. And we were kind of the first ones from like the Oklahoma side of things to start really diving into the podcast. And then we got into YouTube, and we've grown that up pretty large. Now have a own studio down in Norman, which is going to be awesome when we kind of like officially start doing shows daily from there. But I'm really excited about that. And I think that, more than anything, it's just been kind of a steady trajectory, I guess would be the right word to say. in a positive direction. And, I think that like the one thing with the SEC, it's opened our world to ESPN a little bit more with Paul Feinbaum and kind of getting to know him a little bit, I guess more personal than just going on a program for 15 minutes with him or something. And then, Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman do a show with On3, who we're with at Sooner Scoop. They've come to more games and they've been able to use our studios and stuff to do their show. So it's all kind of been a really nice transition, because I think that there was a lot of people that just didn't know how it was going to go. And then obviously when OU wins 10 games, it's good for everybody in the in that regard. So it's been fun. Yeah. I'm excited about it.
What do you think about this? I guess the stadium announcement they made, right? The seats out, but selling to their bigger, more spent. I mean, I understand it from a business perspective. I'm sure it's ruffled a lot of
they were not happy.
Yeah,
they were not happy.
Ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that sit on the west side of the stadium that, have had season tickets for 30 or 40 years, more in some cases. And, I think that's a conversation that I think is certainly still ongoing. I not to say that Roger Denny's going to come in and completely scrap it, but maybe they do look at ways of keeping some of those families or some of those season ticket holders on the west side of the stadium, where they want to put a bunch of suites. And you're right, like from a business standpoint and from a make profit standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, unfortunately, for those fans. But it's going to be interesting. I think that that's one thing that certainly wasn't asked at the introductory press conference, but I'm sure that it is going to be approached by many people in their first meetings with Mr. Denny to see what they can do to keep that, kind of keep that in good standing.
Has to be. Yeah.
It sucks. I feel for those people. My parents went through the same thing in the South End Zone when they redid it in 2016. And it ended up working out. I mean, they're down at the North End Zone now, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of people, and it's another reminder of the world of college athletics right now. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, as uncomfortable as that makes me, I don't necessarily like it. Mm. It's probably a waste of time to kind of fight it also.
Yeah. And I mean, you go back to, your story and your fandom, and just, you put yourself in their shoes, right? And also leading into, you've been involved with this for so long, and you've seen, gone through Big 12 and all games, and, totally outgrowing everything, and then getting to where, the SEC and starting again. And do you still get those pinch me moments?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, definitely going on Feinbaum. Yeah. I think that that's been something, and not just going on Feinbaum, but kind of developing a little bit of a relationship with Paul has been really cool. Something that I didn't expect. So I think stuff like that certainly is kind of holy crap, I can't believe this is really happening type of stuff. But you do get used to it in a way. I think even stuff here locally, just going around, going to Walgreens or something, getting stopped by somebody, that will never get old. I mean, I don't think that my ego would allow that. But at the same time, I do think that it's
a lot more pictures.
Yeah, it's just different. I don't think that I can probably. I don't know if I necessarily think about this as much anymore. But I don't know if I should be going out and getting blackout drunk all day on a Saturday. I definitely think about that sometimes that still happens, but I definitely think about my surroundings a little bit more than maybe I used to. But it's still cool. I appreciate it. I mean, I think that one of the cool things about this job, and certainly working for Sooner Scoop, is understanding the Oklahoma fan base and understanding the sports fan in Oklahoma to an extent that I feel like I can relate with them a lot. And just kind of being thankful to be in that position is always something that I try to lean back on, as maybe much as it doesn't come across sometimes on Twitter.
Do you ever think about going on your own and doing your own show and doing your own thing?
I mean,
that's got to come a point where you scratch
maybe I do think I guess in a way I kind of do already, just with the radio side of things. But I definitely think that I love doing it with George or Ryan Chapman or Kerry Burdock or Josh or Bob. I think that we make a pretty good team, whether it be on the radio side or on the Sooner Scoop side. And I think with the addition of the new studio, I know that we've talked about this before, but I definitely get the idea of the podcast, the daily podcast. Certainly it has some, I think draws from like the radio side of things, which I find to be kind of, I don't want to say on the outs, but it's in a
moves on, right?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely on a spot right now where the newspapers were maybe 20 years ago, where I think that you can probably go out and get your own advertising, and you can get your own, now that we have like a pretty good, I would say, like standing or platform to be able to use, you can do your own thing. It's easier to go out there and maybe take a bet on yourself rather than doing it through like a network or something like that. So I don't know. It's definitely not like anytime soon. I would say that like, I guess technically I am like a owner of Sooner Scoop, have some equity within the company, and just trying to grow that thing into what it is. And I think that like, it's not just football anymore, which I think has been like the biggest change over the last 5-10 years is, softball in the state of Oklahoma has become massive. I mean, we have Bob Billy, he covers it daily for Sooner Scoop, on the softball side of things. That's beginning tomorrow, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
They start on Thursday out in Arizona. OU baseball, we had media day yesterday, and they start next Friday. It's insane to think that we're already there in the spring, but it's been a lot of fun, and I think that with what Sooner Scoop has been able to do is we've been really able to kind of capitalize on maybe some of the other sides of the industry that haven't like doubled down, if you will. I don't know. So it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, because back to like you are a media personality.
Yeah.
As much as like that's probably evolved over time. Just being yourself and natural, and then it's like, oh, you guys want to be a guest speaker somewhere? You want to come to this golf tournament?
Yeah.
Maya, like that. It's you never. I'm sure you never set out for that to happen, but it happens naturally.
Yeah, it does.
Which then piques the interest of like, oh, okay, you have the radio show, or you might have your own little podcast if you have time. There's of course there's opportunities everywhere, and
there's like little like kind of like steps of legitimacy that you have to take. And some people wake up and they're able to just like jump all the way to the top. And I feel like, I guess, like looking back on it, that I tried to take like every step kind of the old traditional way of like, getting your foot in the door, and then like having an opportunity to work a board, like work the soundboard at a radio station in college. And then you meet people, you network, and then all of a sudden you start with Sooner Scoop, and then you get an opportunity to like fill in on a radio show for like an hour or 2 hours on a day that nobody's probably listening to radio. It's like, I told Nate Fakin's class last week about this. It's like, nowadays I know that it's different. Like I went in where you got an internship, you didn't get paid, but you got experience and you were able to meet people. And that's the way that I was able to get into the door. Nowadays, like I know that, I don't know if it's still this way, but a couple of years ago, the big conversation was, don't take an internship if you're not going to get profit out of it, if you're not going to get paid. And it's like, in some industries, I think that that's probably great advice. I don't know if media is that way. Like you have to be able to get your foot in the door and then show that you can do it. Like you really got to be able to take the ball and run with it.
Yeah, because there's gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Like you can't just 100% for a media pass.
100%.
Like people have always said to me, hey man, you should apply for a media pass with this and this. And I'm like, yeah, but also like I would love to, on the off chance of like 1 or 2 games a year, be sick to be sidelined and take some video and whatever, as a selfish experience for me.
Sure.
Do I want to do that every Saturday?
Yeah.
No, right? Like, or every Thunder game or whatever it is, like, but if I did want to do that, you put someone, someone come out of college, it's like, okay, well, what's your experience? What's your capacity? And also, what's your audience? Okay, well, we've got someone here that's been doing this for 30 years.
Sure.
You're not going to take their spot.
Sure.
So then you should take an internship and get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's different because, you can't just submit, oh, I have so many followers on Instagram. Can I have a sideline media pass?
Yeah. Especially OU and stuff like that.
Yeah, like it's probably easier at OSU right now because but it's still like it's you gotta. I think you're right. Getting into that world that you're in, like it's not easy to break down the door. And also with media, you don't just have guys who just pop in and out. You're career guys who've been doing this forever. Like I said, you already knew the guys at the SEC.
Especially, I think around here.
Yeah.
I think that Oklahoma's still relatively old school in that people do wake up and listen to the radio. Like I think that the TV ratings came out for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that Tulsa and Oklahoma City were so high on those lists, not just because of Oklahoma, but because I think of the passion for collegiate sports in this state. Certainly the Thunder have, played a part, and I think maybe the decline in interest in college basketball. But at the same time, I think like nationally, you look at college basketball just as an example, and I think like projected right now in the 2025 or 2026 NBA draft, it's going to be 12 college guys. I can't remember a time where that was ever the case. So like if you invest into college athletics, I think you're getting out what you're putting in to an extent, even though the big money boosters and the powers that be like aren't really necessarily getting a return of investment on the money that they're giving for NIL. There's going to be a breaking point at some point. I don't know how that's going to play out though.
Yeah, you're right. I went to an OSU wrestling match last week.
What an event those are,
dude. I walked and it was not the big game last week. I was there Thursday night, and they also competed Sunday against Iowa State, which was the big game last week, big match. But it was, some I don't know who it was, but they like on a Thursday night when the weather's terrible, like ice and snow, and this place is like rocking. I'm like, this is a religion here.
Yeah, it very much is.
And you look at the banners, you're like, oh, there's however many national championships.
Yeah, I get it.
30,
I get it.
But you're right. Like someone's going to write them a check for NIL, and they might not see a return for that.
No.
But then there's you got that kind of university pride of some, guy who's made a ton of money or girl who's made a ton of money that just wants to invest in it.
NIL has played into the hands of very wealthy people that in a lot of cases have more money than they know what to do with.
Right.
And if that's their form of, entertainment, I think there's thousands of people that will take part in enjoying that with them. It's going to be interesting though, when that breaking point does come and you have not to say that like a Cody Campbell at Texas Tech is going to ever run out of money, but there is going to be a point where it's like, I've given hundreds of millions of dollars and we still haven't been able to obtain, whatever prize they're looking for, a national championship in a lot of cases. It will be interesting to see what that looks like when some of these big money boosters start saying, we've given you $300 million over the last 10 years. We want to see something in return. And I'm sure by then they'll have it figured out where these people are getting money back at some point.
Yeah, right. That's what's tough too with like getting, I'm sure you guys see it too. Like we're in this, like you said, we're in this weird period right now of, the money is going through the roof. Generally the people who have the money that are donating have never seen this money go to, they might have donated it, but instead they've got a building out of it.
Sure.
They had never seen just donate to the athletics program just to build a roster.
Sure.
So that, I'm sure there's
a certain level of, I think probably arrogance that comes into it too, that it's like knowing within the, the donor community that it's like, that's the guy that did it. And when you walk into a room, everybody
there's ego in it.
100%, 100%. It's interesting. There's no doubt about that. I think that like football and basketball have, certainly kind of taken the top mantle as far as sports that have seen the money come across. But there's some schools that, go all in on baseball.
Yeah.
They'll go all in on some of these other sports. And
I know golfers that are coming in at freshmen that have signed $1 million deals.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Freshmen going to university and they've signed like a 2-year million a year for 2 years.
It's crazy.
And that, I think like now schools are also learning that like, hey, we need to lock these guys down in a multi-year deal, right? Because at first it was like, oh, you get this a year, and then they're like, deuces. Like, portal go somewhere else. Like,
I think if they really want to kind of save this thing, contracts, making them employees, that's all coming.
Yeah.
It's just going to take somebody or something, some type of committee to kind of convince all these schools that that's the way that it needs to go. I think that that's the easiest way to get out of this kind of rut that college athletics is in. I just don't know when that's going to happen. And, from a football standpoint, I think it starts with having a commissioner and all that kind of stuff. That comes with official decision makers that could, stand up in a room and say, this is what we're going to do with the salary cap. It seems like it's so close and it's so, there's so much momentum that everybody's pointing to and saying, this is what needs to happen. It's almost too obvious. So now they're going to take 5 more years to figure it out. It's crazy.
I get why you love doing your job.
It's
never not a story.
No, and it really is. It's crazy. I think that like this portal this last year, was probably kind of the breaking point. I think it almost kind of coincided with Lane Kiffin and his move from Ole Miss to LSU, in that anything is on the table nowadays. It seems like any type of story that gets thrown across is like, you kind of have to check out, just because anything is possible in today's world, it seems. It's crazy.
What have been some of the craziest stories that have happened to you this year then? As a recap for people.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything like OU specific. I think that like I guess it's a very smaller scale than probably what you're looking for, but just like, I think the way that you've had to put together rosters in college football is pretty fascinating, because it is basically like putting together an NFL roster to a certain extent of, we like this kid, he's been here for 3 years, but we like this other kid a little bit more. The money makes a little bit more sense. So player A is probably going to have to transfer out. And you have those very real, I would imagine, conversations. I think that to a lesser extent, it kind of happened with Sammy Omosigho. Like, Oklahoma went out and got Cole Sullivan, a starting linebacker from Michigan. He's going to come in and have 3 years left to play. He's going to be a guy that I think that they feel like could end up being ultimately like a Danny Stutzman, if you will.
Yeah.
Sammy Omosigho has 1 year left.
Mm.
He wants to make a little bit more money. He knows that this is probably his final year to be able to have that opportunity, and he can go to UCLA, probably be a starter, probably make a little bit more cash. Does the cash in LA go as far as it will in Oklahoma? I don't know. But like, those are like very real conversations that they're having to have with Jim Nagy and, the front office and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of stuff like that at the end of this past season. PJ Adebore, everybody's tampering. Everybody's saying, hey, we can get you a little bit more money. And, I think that like the one thing that Oklahoma's done that's been really smart, and you saw it come to fruition this past year, was bringing guys back on the defensive side of the ball, having a little bit of depth and retention of players. I think that like, as everybody wants the new shiny prize in the portal, but when you have a guy that you can get in and develop and be able to retain, I think it kind of keeps with continuity on that side of the football. So it's been interesting. Trying to think if there was like anything crazy though. Like, there was crazy stories like nationally, with the kid that was at Duke, the Darian Mensah, the quarterback that signed a contract, and then 2 weeks later was like, yeah, I think I'm going to Miami because they're going to give me a couple $1 million more. Like, that's been interesting to follow, just because I think it is setting precedent in how the NCAA will handle all this stuff, which isn't very hands off, it seems. But I don't know. It's kind of a scary time in a sense, because everything is so volatile. But at the same time, it's great for us because it gives us something to talk about. I mean, we're talking about college football in the middle of February.
Yeah, which is like, now you're like, usually in the past, you've been looking for things to talk about.
Yeah,
it's like,
very much so.
And so many stories.
Like I said, with like the way the SEC kind of outlines their yearly schedule, everything kind of comes together where you have like periods of gap, but there is also other sports going on. There's ultimately always comes back to football, but we'll be doing spring football here in about a month. And, it before you know it, it's kind of a joke we always say around the office, but it's one of those things like you blink and all of a sudden we're going to be getting on a flight to go out to, I think it's Atlanta or Nashville, maybe for the SEC Media Days in July. And then once July hits, it's usually pretty hardcore until about January, until February.
Who, I think last time we did a podcast, we made some predictions. Who do you have your eye on for this coming up season?
Like player wise? I think that like offensively, it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, John Mateer's coming back. I think that was kind of a point of contention with some in the Oklahoma fan base coming out of last year. I'm still in the John Mateer camp. I still think he can be a really good quarterback at Oklahoma. They got some guys around him this year that should be pretty exciting. Isaiah Satania coming back, that was another big piece of retention for Oklahoma. Going out and getting Trell Harris from Virginia, getting the Parker Livingston kid, which was pretty controversial, I guess, just in terms of him coming in from Texas. He was Arch Manning's roommate a year ago at Texas, and it sounded like they had some business decisions to make just in terms of the way that they wanted to put their money together. They went out and got Cam Coleman, the wide receiver from Auburn. But, I would say the two wide receivers for sure. It's insane to me that Jason Witten is a coach at Oklahoma now. Like, we're going to be talking to him at some point. And I would have to think, we haven't talked to Ben Arbuckle since then, the Oklahoma offense coordinator going into his second year. Like, he's a kid that grew up in Canadian Texas. You can't tell me that he didn't grow up watching Jason Witten play, and now he's like a coworker. That's kind of a cool, like, just, I guess, off-field storyline. What they did with the tight end room, though, I think is really exciting. They got 2 kids coming in, one from Florida, one from Tennessee, that played SEC football a year ago. That position group should be a lot better. Jonathan Hatton's a 5-star true freshman running back that will be taking part in spring football. That's going to be, I think, a player in the Oklahoma running back room going into next year. And Marion Harris, kid from Arkansas that they brought in the portal, I think he's going to end up starting at right tackle. So there's a lot of positivity right now. And, just within the Switzer Center, I would say, with what they did this year, building on the momentum. I think that, like, last year, they had to find ways to win. And that was something that they could not do in those first, 3 years, 4 years. And they finally were able to do that. And you take a little bit of confidence now going into the spring, knowing that you can go compete with some of these teams that they were getting their ass kicked by in, 23 and 24 in the first 2 years. So that's been exciting. And then, defensively, I'm excited about the Cole Sullivan kid. You got David Stone and Jaden Jackson coming back, 2 guys that should be All-American candidates going into the season. Taylor Wine had a massive year. I don't think anybody could have foreseen that coming. That was exciting. I think that he will only get better as he continues on going into his 3rd year, really his 2nd year in true production for Oklahoma. Danny Okoye is another guy on their defensive end that I think you saw glimpses of at the end of the year last year. Same with PJ Adebore, that they were able to retain and bring in. It's going to be exciting. And, I like, the one thing that all of these college football programs are kind of battling right now is, because the money is so significant across the landscape, it's everybody, not just a few set of teams, that the depth for all these teams, like, I don't think that you're going to look at a team now that can throw out 15, 18 guys on one side of the football. They'll be able to, they have bodies, but the level of play going from that first string to second string is probably going to take a hit. And that's just not in Norman. That's in Stillwater, Austin, Athens, Tuscaloosa, wherever. The wealth, I think, is distributed a little bit more evenly, if that makes sense, at least for frontline guys. And I think you saw that kind of come to fruition this year with Indiana and what they were able to do, and the magnificent run that Kirk Cignetti and the Hoosiers had is, I think the playing field maybe is a little bit more even, with saying that there's still going to be some haves, and some have-nots. And, I think that it's different when you're able to throw $35 million at a roster as opposed to $25 million.
Yeah.
It's a reality that nobody's going to be able to escape.
Yeah. What are some of the stories as far as the NIL deals off the field? I mean, Stuntsman did a commercial
Mhm.
swap meet.
Yeah.
What's some of the fun stories that you've seen, or just, the NIL deals that on the commercial side?
That's the funny thing, is because, like, you see, the Brendan Sorsby kid at Texas Tech, and maybe it's stuff that we just don't see because it's local sponsorships, but is he making commercials? How is he making this $5 million? And I think that, like, that's been the kind of the unspoken thing that hasn't been said a whole lot in the NIL world, is these guys are making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Where's the content that they're supposed to be producing? And to a lesser extent, Danny Stutzman did do the him and Nick Martin did the Schwab Meat commercial. You've seen some of the OU athletes do some of the commercials with some of the local car dealerships in Norman. I think the baseball and the softball programs have deals, as well as I think it might be all the programs with one of the sponsors or the car dealerships. And is it Fowler? I think it is.
Yeah.
So you see that kind of stuff on a local level. And then you see, like, some of the upper echelon guys, whether it be like a Gatorade commercial or a Nike commercial or Under Armour or whatever. It's going to be interesting, though, like, because I do think, like, the bigger some of these contracts get, and the NCAA has said that they put together a committee that is starting to monitor this stuff a little bit more. I think it's very much a wait and see if they're actually going to do anything about it. And, I guess to an extent, it maybe is just one of those unspoken things that everybody kind of knows what's going on and nobody's going to really talk about it.
Because that's happened in the past, right? Like, who was the player who was like working for a car dealership?
Red Bomar.
Yeah, right. Like,
he would have been made for this world.
Yeah, like, and then Coach O said on a podcast, right? Nothing's changed. We just bring the money in the front door, not the back door anymore. Like,
very much.
Always been there,
and that's why, like the conversation with, and I've even found myself wondering about this. That I have like with my parents or, some of the older generation is like, they're sick of the money.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, that Switzer was doing the same thing.
They just know.
Nobody talked about it and nobody knew about it. Nobody knew what the extent of the money was. Quite different than it was in the late 70s. But at the same time, the idea of these players getting money has always been there. It's just now that it's out there and it's open and everybody kind of knows like what each guy is making.
Yeah. And it just keeps going up and up.
Right? No, yeah, it does. It does. And that's where like, I think even players like in the, that aren't older necessarily, but that were my age that were in school or that I went to school with and that were playing athletics at the time, I think they're a little jaded even because that could have been them. They could have been the ones making $3 million or $1.5 million a year.
Yeah. Yeah, because for the majority of them, they're making more money now than they will ever make for a single year in their entire life.
100%.
Like, they're not all going to the league or whatever it is. Like, they're going to end up, working for Goldman Sachs or selling insurance or 100%, whatever, right?
100%.
Like, that's generally,
I think everybody would like a 7-figure contract when they were in college. I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
We wouldn't have survived.
No, I'd like to think that I would have, but I probably also know myself that it would have been hard not to just run through all of that money.
That's the other thing too, the business side of it, like the NIL collective thing that are popping up. And obviously, there's the most recent one that I've seen is with Sam and Jason White, Laura, and they popped up, right? But there are these, everyone's swarming to get a piece of this pie, right? And these people need to be there. These kids need direction. They need, they need advising, the right way. I'm sure there's going to be bad
100%,
as there usually is and everything, but at the same time, like, there's that side of it too.
And
right?
you see that a lot in the high school ranks of, I wouldn't say a majority, but I would say a good amount of these kids are, I guess for a lack of better expression, they're being taken advantage of by, the uncle or the, whomever, the handler, the family friend that is trying to advise them. And when in reality, they're advising them because they want a little bit of, they want a cut of the money.
Yeah.
So I think that like the collectives to a certain extent do play a part in being able to, not only be able to facilitate this money, but hopefully give them a little bit of a outlet or advice or mentorship on, hey, we're giving you a bunch of money, but might be it for you. Like, you need to make this last. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
And these now sports agents also are coming down, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
These huge sports agencies that really couldn't do anything until you graduated. Obviously Kelly's a good friend with, her agency, Kelly Masters, and everything she does there. And, I remember asking him, like, are you going to jump into it? It's just like, right now, this was a few years ago. It's like, not really, but we're going to have to.
Sure.
because these kids need representation, and you
sure.
might as well represent them now all the way through versus like waiting because they're getting gobbled up.
Out of the, let's say 300 top guys that went into the transfer portal in college football, I bet 99% of those guys are represented by somebody from a legal professional background. It's crazy. It's crazy. And especially when you're talking about these are things that, especially if you're going to be an upper echelon recruit, like a top 50 or a top 100 or top 250, those are things that people are thinking about when you're 16, 15, 16 years old nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what's nuts, right? And like I said, having the right people around you at that age,
100%,
and just having a good head on your shoulders which is rare.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that for that upper percent, I would say even smaller than 3%, just to throw out a number, probably have like at least high school wise have people that they can turn to and say, I trust this person. Yeah. They're not going to take advantage of me, which is unfortunate.
It is, and it's just the nature of the world now and nature of the business, right? Like it's. And it's across all sports. That's like I said, it's not just mainly obviously it's football, basketball, but it's and softball here, but it's across everything.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy. It is. It's different, but at the end of the day, at least maybe this is like me coping. At the end of the day, when you go down to Norman or you go up to Stillwater for a game, I think that there is still some innocence left in people returning to, the university or the place that they love, the fandom that comes with it. There still is that ultimate, I think like prize that fans are able to still have. It's just different, and how the meat's made, and sometimes that's not the prettiest thing in the world.
Don't find out how chicken nuggets are made.
Yeah, exactly. They're still good though. They're still good. It's just different.
Yeah. What are we missing? We miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I think that like it's a fun time right now to be in the city with everything that is coming together. Just like driving downtown and going to a Thunder game or something. For somebody that grew up here, it's still weird to look and see the Myriad not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I think like the new arena and all that kind of stuff.
Break ground next month.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. It's going to be exciting. Yeah. It's going to be exciting. I think that it's a good time. And with, it's on down the road, but like the Olympics coming to Oklahoma City is still like just completely bizarre to me. But I think it's a good representation of the standing of where we are right now, just as a community, and it should be a lot of fun over the next couple of years. I don't think the Thunder are going anywhere anytime soon. From championship contending, and it's just a really cool moment. I feel like to be living here, and it certainly has grown. I think you see that every day. It took me an hour almost to get back from Norman yesterday because of traffic. So I guess there's some drawbacks to it, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day, it's all progressing in a really positive direction. When you look across like the country or the just the landscape of the world right now, we don't have a lot to complain about here.
Really don't, right? Other than maybe the Devon Tower now having a Brahms logo on it.
Crazy, crazy. I don't know what they're gonna do with that thing. I don't really get into the business side of it very often, but it seems like they're going to keep some jobs there, hopefully. And I'm sure there's going to be another company that comes in and tries to move in and do all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's different for sure.
One of the most underrated lunch spots is a
Correct.
Like down the.
I've never been. What is it?
There's like a couple of restaurants downstairs. It's it's not Nobu, Nibu, I think it's
okay.
Called. And you go in and there's like 5. It's like going to like lunch in college, right? Like going there's like 10 different counters.
I like that.
And then you just like whatever you've got, you just pay when you leave.
I like that.
Food's amazing. Total underrated. I went in there just before Christmas. I was like, oh my gosh, this food's so good.
I love all the new restaurants that are opening, and I always tell people when they come into town for OU football games, like we've had a bunch of people traveling in, and usually they stay in Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
we're an underrated food scene. Yeah. I feel like we are. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, and I can't say that I'd go up to Chicago or wherever, and they have great culinary options, but I feel like what we have right now, and I think it's starting to get recognized. I mean, obviously the James Beard Award at some of the local places.
Recently, right?
Mod is unbelievable. I'm biased. I'm friends with Kevin and Cole over there, but I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Birdie's
is awesome.
Chef Black is opening up a new restaurant soon in the old Black Walnut space with plenty, Chef Jeff, who's obviously got Madeira and all the other.
Gosh.
We're getting awards here, so there's a reason the food is.
Yeah, like it kind of backs up at least what I think. So it makes me feel good that I feel like I'm a foodie and I know. But no, it's awesome, and I think that I guess it's cliche, but I feel like the best is yet to come.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of what this place is moving forward with. So it's awesome.
We haven't talked about bingo.
Bingo. I retired from bingo.
Did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I had to retire. I enjoyed it. 5 years at the Jones every Thursday during the summer. It was awesome. What wasn't awesome was waking up and doing a radio show at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning on Fridays after calling bingo. I think there's a certain level of mentality that you have to have. Maybe have a couple more pops than you usually do on a Thursday. But I always enjoy it. I went back and did the Christmas bingo with Brett and Nader this year, and it was a lot of fun. It was it always kind of not necessarily surprised me, but how big it got.
Yeah.
Like I think 2 or 3 summers ago, it was packed. It was packed every week.
Thursday night thing to do.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. All good things had to come to an end, though. I'll still go back and do a couple more, but I retired.
Yes,
I had to retire.
So
I had to hang up the Brett and I always joke I was expecting to get a jersey, hung in the rafters of the patio at the Jones.
They
but
should start doing.
I know that. How cool would that be?
That would be so good.
It'd be awesome.
Because Kevin, Kevin, he should have a jersey because he used to work there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You should get one. He should get one. Brett,
you just put jerseys up into the rafter, kind of like they do at the Paycom Center
There's
now.
Plenty of room up there too.
Absolutely, it's a perfect spot for it.
Okay, we need to make that.
I need to talk to Brian and Graham about it.
Yeah, we're gonna retire some jerseys.
Yeah,
there's a list. And have a okay, absolutely.
And I'll wait if they want to do somebody else first. I don't have to have the first one. I just want to have one. I want to be remembered or something like that. They would have to make like a Jones, like, yes, right? Yes. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, maybe or maybe, I don't know. I don't want to step on anybody's, lifestyle, but maybe like like the Jones, I feel like they're synonymous with the, I don't know, is it a smock or like a bib or like the server, get up, apron, I guess is the word I was looking for. Maybe just put it on an apron. I'd take an apron. I think I have one of the Jones aprons that I used one time and never gave back. So maybe they could use that one.
Oh, awesome. Well, I tell you what, there's a friend of mine who absolutely is a huge fan of you.
Okay.
He does not know that this is happening, but I'm going to try and FaceTime him.
Okay. That's fine.
I just thought of this. He's a huge OU fan.
I love it. We need more people like this guy out there in the world.
See if he answers. He probably won't because he's like, why? Because I never
FaceTime. Why? I never FaceTime.
No one I FaceTime my parents.
Yeah.
It, right?
Yeah.
He's probably gonna think I'm butt.
I never FaceTime anybody. It's always I always say like, don't call me, text me like an adult.
Yeah. Right. Like, and even calls. Here he is. Hey, you're live on the podcast.
What's up, dude?
I want to give you, you're live on the show. I figured you'd want to ask Eddie a question.
Oh, man, I'd love to. Eddie, what the new entertainment district are they going to name after you?
That's a good question. With some of the, he asked me if they were going to name a restaurant at the new entertainment project. I need something. I like the spot with the patio. The open patio. It's like in the bottom right of one of the pictures. That looks like a great spot. I don't know if we can call it Eddie's, though, because Eddie's is already cornered in the OKC market. So we're going to have to come up with something else.
Yeah, call it
Rados would be great. Rados would be great. I need Kevin and Cole to do the food.
Oh, yeah, do the food.
I need to have the bot food on tap. It would be awesome, though. Yeah, Rados. I think that's what we should call it.
All right. Great question. See you, man.
See ya.
That's
funny.
That's Wes. Have you been to the Super Bowl?
No.
Go to a Super Bowl? What'd you do as media? Like, is that something you guys could pull off as far as like taking?
I don't think that's something I'd ever want to be a part of. The media night that they've created, where it's like anybody and everybody, where you get the funny clips of, the reporter from Mexico or whatever asking about whatever. I don't really even enjoy like media day for the SEC. Like I just find it to be kind of something that we have to do to get a gateway to the season. I have no interest in that. I would go to a Super Bowl though.
Yeah, like I was thinking, didn't you and Carson go to the Masters one year?
Yeah,
so
we went.
That's what I was thinking. Like you followed, and Carson was like, I went to see like the Harlem. He was at OSU.
Yeah,
is there an opportunity or potentially for you to go to NFL games or the Super Bowl because you're following a previous OU?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume. I kind of feel like the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
if you're a, I don't know, legitimate entity, they basically give clearance to everybody. I don't know if you'd have like a seat in the press box. You might have like overflow seating somewhere, but it'd be, I don't know.
That would be something cool. I mean, even with the guys that you have relationships with, like whether it's Baker or Danny Stubbs or whoever that's now in the league.
That would be cool.
Like they're 2 or 3 years in, that like they're kind of in their spot where they understand what's going on and they can say, well, maybe not to them, but you can go to a game.
Yeah, like I think we could go to. We've kind of mulled around like if we were in Jacksonville or something, which I think Tampa Bay is where the SEC Media Days is. If we were in Tampa and the Bucks had like a preseason game, I think we'd be fine to be able to get in and go see Baker and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I like the idea of like the Super Bowl having nothing to do and just being able to sit around and watch it. So it would be fun. I just don't know if I'd ever want to like actually go cover it. It just seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, you want to go and enjoy it.
I definitely wouldn't want to go like carry a camera around or anything like that. I'd want to like be on air talent, have somebody carry the camera.
Has that evolved? I mean, you got a pretty sizable camera.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like I still enjoy it, and I do think that I guess in a way, like I'm talented, like I know how to shoot a game and all that kind of stuff. But there might be a day where it's just want to go do the on camera stuff and kind of put down the camera. Such a control freak though. I like knowing like what shots I'm going to be able to use and like what video we have, and I guess trusting myself to get the shot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some days like walking through the state fair of Texas with a camera bag and a tripod and all of the sound equipment that we have for the podcast afterwards. That is a burden that someday I hope to relinquish to somebody else.
Out of the system.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, seriously, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, mate, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Got to keep this, every 2 issues.
Absolutely. Talk about another Thunder championship, hopefully. And I don't know, maybe OU will win a national championship in football. That'd be great.
I mean, maybe OSU wins any games.
I do like Eric Morse. I think that was a great hire. And that's kind of like another like unique like instance of college football that's taken over of when you hire somebody, if you can be fortunate enough that he brings a quarterback with him and brings a staff and brings guys that know each other, that have played with one another, you can go do it nowadays. There's no doubt about that.
That's
crazy.
What's crazy is like, there's, with the amount of money that's being spent, like you're going to get national champions that have been national champions for a long time.
Sure.
Have never won a national championship, which makes it exciting. But Eddie Radosevich everywhere on social media. And maybe you'll see him at Hot Bingo sometime with a guest
someday
here.
when I come out of retirement.
But thanks for listening. Catch you next episode. Cheers. Thanks, boss.
Anytime. That was fun.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups. So go to thedoghouseokc.com and follow them on Instagram at thedoghouseokc, and hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.